It's Purdue week. And Gary, I have to say, since we've started this channel a couple of years ago, I don't remember being more proud of the Huskers or more positive this late in the year, at least, about the direction of the program. Huskers have a winning record, and I don't see any reason why that has to or will change this week. Hudson Card, the quarterback for Purdue, isn't extremely mobile, doesn't seem dangerous. I could end up obviously regretting saying that. For me, it just comes down to stopping Maccabee. He made a Maccabee of our entire existence last season. We made him look like a combination of Larry Johnson and Barry Sanders. And I just think our defense is much better equipped to handle him this season. Hit that like for us and tell us in the comments, who do you think wins this game? And let us know if you have a score prediction. So am I oversimplifying things by saying if we can stop Maccabee, we can really control the entire game and get a win, no problem?
I think it's going to be a little more complicated than just stopping him because they have some other weapons, other positions. On the offensive side, it's mainly wide receiver. But I think as far as running games go, I don't know that we could really be up against anybody's run offense. I'm not talking about if they're good both or, a top tier offense that's relying on the pass or something like that. But I think that the better running teams in the nation would have a hard time with Nebraska's defense run wise because of what they've been doing and what they've kind of prided and built that defense around. But they have a wide receiver that reminds me of that Smoke Harris kid we talked about when we previewed Louisiana Tech. And he had some plays in that game, and he's a smaller guy, fast, shifty, really good balance, doesn't go down easy. You got to wrap him up. He's hard to catch when he gets in the open field. And I'm really curious to see if we stick with the one-on-ones trying to get pressure, or the man-to-man on the secondary and on the outsides to try and do those disguises, or if they're going to stick with kind of that 5-front rush like they did last week against Northwestern. How often he can get loose or how well specifically the corners do trying to lock him up in man. So, I mean, there's a little bit more than just the run game. Actually, I think there's quite a bit more than the run game that Nebraska needs to worry about. And I know if you look at the stat sheet, it doesn't look like Card, their quarterback, is really tearing it up, but he is quick. And the way Nebraska they'll usually blitz a guy on the edge. And you saw Lenhart, you saw Williams at the end of the game. You see the different linebackers at different times, some of the edge guys, but it's kind of pick and choose when they're going to do it. The grand scheme is to maintain that there's no running lanes up the middle with those Hutmacher and Robinson, but then try to just kind of squeeze the pocket in on the quarterback. I honestly think watching some of the stuff on this guy, he could exploit that if he's looking for it, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, the pocket's breaking down, but if he can anticipate that and get to the edge, I think he has enough quickness. And he's not somebody like, how we saw Sims at the beginning of the year, Harburg, where I would worry about him breaking off 70-yard touchdown runs or anything, but I think he could definitely do enough to move the chains. And that's one of the categories that they're actually fairly highly ranked in. I think they're inside the top 50 on third down efficiency. Everything else, they're outside of ways. So on the offensive side of the ball, for sure, stopping Maccabee is going to be a key. I'm just not worried about that at this stage. I've seen enough from the defense. They've shown me enough against the run. But I think this quarterback's kind of deceivingly fast, I guess you could say, or quick, and I think he could avoid some sacks and actually move the chains. And especially if they can get Burks in some open field areas, kind of in between zones if we do go into zone, or if he's able to get loose on either one of the corners. We saw Hartzog a few times get beat, so I'm kind of leery on that angle or that, island, so to speak, if it happens. So there's some things for sure to watch, and I don't think there's a team that you could put Nebraska up against that's a gimme win, you know what I mean? So it's something they got to be careful of, but I think the talent and the kind of the chemistry has come along at this point that it's a should-win game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think my key for this game would be definitely not getting behind early. I don't think we have to get up by a lot, but I want Purdue to be in passing situations more often than not because they've taken 17 sacks already this year. For example, I think the Huskers between the two quarterbacks have 14 sacks. So their offensive line could be worse than ours, could be exploitable in that way. And I think that's a way that we could get a turnover, perhaps, if not forcing an early throw that gets intercepted, getting a sack, and a fumble recovery.
Yeah, man, and I'm not so sure about that offensive line comment just because we don't know exactly what we're going to have. We should be pretty familiar with the names that are going to be playing now, but as far as what we've seen this year, there's not a lot to go off of. But they have two outside linebackers that are pretty good at getting to the quarterback. They're athletic, they're fairly quick. I would really like to see these young, we keep hearing about these young, speedy, track star, whatever, wide receivers. To me, this is the type of game, if they're bringing those linebackers off of the edges to try and get to Harburg and try and kind of suffocate him taking off on the edges type deal, I would love to see some quick dump off passes right where those guys are coming from to some of these speed guys and just see what happens when you get them into open space. The question is going to be, how much time is Harburg going to have to throw with guys that have started before? Like Latavsky's going to start, it sounds like, and Prohaska's going to start, but how much have they really played or comfort have they gotten? So I think it's just going to depend on how much time is he going to have to throw. Is he going to be comfortable? And I'd really like to see him try to run more between the tackles against this team and kind of make those outside linebackers have to chase or play more from the outside in as opposed to running to them, you know what I mean? And giving them a chance to take off the edge. So some things to watch definitely on both sides of the ball, but I think if Nebraska can just, again, get out of their own way and eventually let things unfold and play to the strength, which is their defense, I think it should be a similar to between like an Illinois Northwestern type win.
I'm going Huskers 24, Purdue 14.
I'm going to say, because I looked earlier, saw Purdue's giving up on average 26 points a game. So I'm going to say, or 30, I think it was a game. So I'm going to say 27 Nebraska, and I'll say 17 Purdue.
Tell us what you guys think in the comments. Can't wait to see you guys for the live stream Saturday. Till then, go Big Red.